Most people lose respect without realizing it, not through failure, weakness, or lack of ability, but through subtle behaviors that signal insecurity, over-explanation, and a quiet need for validation. Respect, in human psychology, is rarely given to those who try to earn it directly. It is assigned, often unconsciously, based on perceived self-control, emotional restraint, and the ability to remain unaffected by external pressure. The less someone tries to prove their worth, the more others begin to assume it exists. This creates a paradox. The more a person talks to justify themselves, the less convincing they become. And the quieter they are, the more others begin to fill that silence with assumptions of confidence and authority. In everyday social situations, this pattern appears constantly. In conversations, there is often one person who explains too much. They add extra details, clarify their intentions repeatedly, and try to make sure they are fully understood. At the same time, another person speaks less, pauses more, and does not rush to defend their point. Strangely, it is the second person who is often perceived as more confident, even if both individuals have the same level of knowledge or competence. This is not because silence is inherently powerful, but because of what it suggests. Human beings are wired to interpret behavior as signals. When someone speaks excessively, it can signal uncertainty. When someone remains composed and selective with words, it signals internal stability. The mind of the observer begins to make unconscious calculations. It asks, why is this person trying so hard to be understood? And at the same time, why is this other person so calm, as if they do not need approval? Respect begins to form not from what is said, but from what is implied. This becomes even more visible in moments of tension. In disagreements, one person may raise their voice, interrupt, and attempt to dominate the conversation. Another may remain steady, respond briefly, and show no urgency to win. The first behavior feels forceful, but it weakens perception. The second behavior feels controlled, and it strengthens presence. Psychologically, this connects to a concept known as emotional self-regulation. Individuals who can manage their reactions signal a form of internal order, and internal order is often interpreted as strength. Humans tend to respect those who appear difficult to disturb. This does not mean silence should be used as a tactic or performance. Forced silence can feel unnatural and even passive. The deeper principle is not about saying less, but about needing less. When a person no longer feels the urge to explain every thought, defend every opinion, or seek constant agreement, their communication naturally becomes more precise. Words are chosen, not scattered. And with that precision comes weight. Another layer of this dynamic appears in social hierarchies. In group settings, the individual who speaks the most is not always the one who holds the most influence. Often, it is the person who speaks at the right moment, without urgency, and without trying to dominate attention. There is a difference between attention and authority. Attention is often loud and immediate. Authority is quiet and accumulative. Over time, people begin to notice patterns. They observe who reacts impulsively and who remains composed. They notice who seeks approval and who seems indifferent to it. These observations shape perception more than any single interaction. Respect is rarely based on a single moment. It is built through consistent signals. Another important factor is unpredictability. When someone speaks constantly, their behavior becomes easy to anticipate. There is no mystery, no pause, no space for interpretation. But when someone speaks selectively, Their words carry more curiosity. The human mind is naturally drawn to what it cannot fully predict. Silence, when it comes from confidence rather than fear, creates that space. It allows others to project meaning, often in a way that elevates perception. This is why minimal communication can sometimes feel more powerful than detailed explanation. Not because less is always better, but because restraint suggests control. And control, especially emotional control, is one of the most respected traits in social dynamics. Understanding this changes how social behavior is interpreted. It becomes easier to see that many interactions are not about information exchange, but about signaling internal states. A person who interrupts frequently may not be dominant, but impatient. A person who over-explains may not be thorough, but uncertain. And a person who speaks calmly, without urgency, may not be quiet, but grounded. These signals operate beneath awareness, shaping impressions in subtle but consistent ways. Over time, a shift begins to happen. Instead of focusing on saying the right thing, attention moves toward maintaining the right state. The focus becomes internal rather than external. Communication becomes an extension of that state rather than a tool to control perception. This is where true respect begins to form, not from techniques or strategies, but from alignment between behavior and internal stability. When there is nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and no need to control how others perceive, words naturally become fewer. But each word begins to carry more clarity. And in that clarity, there is a quiet form of authority that does not demand attention, yet consistently receives it. In the end, respect is not given to those who speak the most, but to those who reveal the least need to be heard.